Today I'm going to take y'all along for just a typical day around our house homemaking. We are going to be leaving the house later this evening, and a lot of times many families would turn to takeout or eating out, but I'm going to show you how to prepare ahead of time so that we still have an easy, delicious, wholesome, nourishing meal when we get back. These are like easy dinner nights, so I'll show y'all that at the end of this video. So as most of my videos, we're starting out making breakfast because that's how my day starts out every single day, and it always starts with some form of eggs. The simplest eggs that I like to make are butter fried eggs. So that's what you see here. Have butter in the pan, melt it in a very hot stainless steel pan. That's the key to not having your eggs stick, is have it very hot before you add your cooking fat of choice, which here we're having butter. And then put your eggs in, cover them, and let them cook undisturbed for 4 to 5 minutes. I usually just keep a good eye on them. And then we're just having a really high protein fruit smoothie. So anytime I have smoothies, I add some form of organ meats. So here I have frozen liver bites. These have been frozen in the freezer, and I just easily add them to the blender and they'll blend up. And then I'm also putting some in a jar for my little liver shots each day. I was been asked about this before, and this is actually how I prepare my liver shots. I chop the liver up, freeze it into small little bites, and once it's flash frozen for at least a day, I pop it into a jar. That way they don't stick together as bad, and I can just pull a couple out each day, as you see here, and take a little bite of liver just to get the little intake of organ meat. You can take liver in the capsule form, which I think that's the more normal way for people to take beef liver, but it's a lot more expensive that way, and we can buy beef liver relatively cheap, as well as we get it in our half cow meat orders we get each year. So this is just the easiest, most economical way for me to get the daily dosage that I would like for beef liver, especially in pregnancy. Back to the breakfast, we're flipping the eggs once. I have a couple of children that like cottage cheese fried eggs, so I add a little bit of cottage cheese to half the pan and kind of scramble them in with the fried eggs, and that's how they like their eggs. So that's why the eggs do look a little different here in different sides of the pan. We are also having some avocado toast because right now I am later in pregnancy, and this is the time where I'm consuming raw garlic every single day. So my favorite way to consume it is on avocado toast with egg on top. And I know avocado toast was like the big thing several years ago, and I really got on board with it then. And then a lot of people realized they didn't really like avocado. So maybe you're one of those people and avocado just is not appetizing to you, but I still love it. Love just a hot piece of toast with avocado, garlic, and a fried egg on top. Smoothie is pretty simple. It's just cottage cheese, milk, blueberries, bananas, the little bits of liver, collagen, just a high protein, delicious way to enjoy a smoothie with our breakfast. And I just found this jar of sauerkraut in the back of our extra fridge. It's almost a year old. I've always wondered how long sauerkraut actually lasts. I usually hear about 6 months, but I opened this jar that was right at a year old and it was still delicious. So we're enjoying this last jar of sauerkraut before I start new batches that apparently will last us another year. On to one of those cumbersome tasks that you just have to get done, cleaning and maintaining our Berkey water filter. So while I'm cleaning the filter, I'm going to share a little bit about our Berkey water system and why we chose to get it. I've been asked this recently on why we have our Berkey, the reasons we chose this water filter system, and like what we enjoy about it. So basically, when I started hearing about Berkeys, I realized how easy they were to have in your home and also how economical they were. They are a bit of an investment up front, but they are so low maintenance and low cost once you actually have one, and the filters that you use in them last so long. It's not like you're continually having to replace water filters. In the past, we would have just filtered water from our refrigerator, which is probably not actually the best filtered water now, knowing what I know now, but those filters were like $40, $50, and we had to replace them every couple of months. Whereas the filters in the Berkey, the set of these black filters, last for about 6,000 gallons of water. So for us personally, that lasts 2 to 3 years. It's just going to kind of depend on how much water you filter through yours. But first of all, it's very economical once we made the initial investment. Also like that it is not wired to anything. It's not hooked into an electrical system, a refrigerator, your under your sink. So it's very portable, and just there's no like charging or hooking up of things. You just take it out of the box, put it together, and set it out on your counter or wherever you want to, and it's there to filter your water. I would eventually love one of those really, really fancy home water filtering systems that does connect under your sink, but I would still probably have our Berkey, because we take this Berkey on vacation with us. It's been very convenient to take on vacations. You just unstack it, the two chambers here, pack it in the back of your vehicle, and take it to your vacation destination, instead of having to buy bottled water or filtered water that we really don't know how much is actually filtered out of that. So a little bit about what the Berkey water filters filter out. They filter out fluoride. Now we do have the additional fluoride filters. You will have to invest in those separately, but they're pretty inexpensive and they last quite a while. So those are the white filters you see me working with here. They filter out viruses, pathogenic bacteria, lead, arsenic, iron, mercury, and then pharmaceuticals. That is just rampant in our soil and our water system today. This would not have been the case many years ago, but it is the case today. So filtering this out is kind of important when you start learning what all is actually in our water. It also filters out pesticides from all of the chemicals that are sprayed on our plants and crops these days, heavy metals, E. coli, uranium. So there's a whole list of this on the Berkey website. I encourage you, if you've been thinking about getting a Berkey or any type of water filtering system, you check out the research behind why you would actually want that in your home, and don't just take someone else's opinion of why you should get that product. But we've absolutely loved our Berkey. We've had it now for 4 years almost, and we have the big Berkey size. So this, I believe, is the third size from the largest one. There's like a Royal Berkey, a Crown Berkey, the Big Berkey, the Travel Berkey. There's several different sizes, so you can just go on if you're interested and see what size would be suited for your family. I think this one is actually suited for 2 to 4 people. When we got the Berkey, we only had 3 people in our family, so we weren't quite as large a family as we are now, but I just fill the water filter up more often now. I'm usually filling this filter up about every day to every other day, depending on how much bone broth I make, how much I use the crock pot or the Instant Pot. Just kind of depends on how much water I go through as far as what I'm cooking or how much water we're drinking that day. So this size holds about 2.25 gallons of water. So that's not that big, actually. They do have a bigger size, and if I was to go back and buy one now, I probably would buy a bigger one. But this one is actually really convenient because it's not so heavy that you can't lift it from your sink and put it on the stand. As far as always making sure you have water in your home, that's another reason I love the Berkey, is because we do have a pond out back. We do have a water source. If for some reason we were out of water, which I hope that will never happen in this country, but if it did, we could go out to our pond and use water from that to filter through our Berkey or collect rainwater, and the filters would last a good while, hopefully long enough to figure out what we were going to do next if there was a water source disaster. But that's another reason I love it, is because it's just another way to kind of be prepared for emergencies, things such as that. So a couple of times when our water has been cut off due to ice storms, things where there's water leaks, we are able to either collect water or get water from our back pond, filter it through our Berkey, and still have good drinking water to drink. So you can definitely just stock up on water with like 1 gallon jugs from the store, but those are usually around $1 each, depending on the quality that you're buying. And I still don't know how much I would trust the quality of some of those brands of filtered water. But the Berkey, however, when you break down the cost of filtering it after you have that initial investment, it's only about 2 cents per gallon to filter your water through the Berkey if you were able to have a water source or collect rainwater, etc. So it's very economical once you put the initial investment in the Berkey. I'm so glad we made that investment about 4 years ago, and we have loved our Berkey. We've been thinking about getting one. I don't have any affiliate code with them, but I did want to share our experience with our water filtering system. I've been asked about it, and it's shown all the time in my videos because I'm always filling up water for something. So I figured while I'm cleaning these filters, I would just give you a little chat about our water filtering system. So we have been on our spring homeschooling curriculum lately, and this week we were learning about worms. So I've shared my gummy recipe before, but this is the gummy recipe and I'm making it into little small gummy worms. So this time I just poured a very, very, very thin layer of my gelatin fruit gummy mixture into the bottom of this baking dish. And then we're just going to cut them into thin worm strips. And that worked out great. This was a great activity for my son. He enjoyed it very much. We had been learning about worms and things of spring this week, so making these little gummy worms was actually really fun. And next we are making some chocolate pudding. So this is a favorite recipe of ours. When we have enough milk and eggs, I always make this chocolate pudding because it does take quite a bit of milk, quite a bit of egg yolks, but we are finally getting a lot of eggs here in the spring. We are finally about to have milk on our farm from our own cow, so this will hopefully become a weekly staple to have on hand for easy, really high protein, really nutritious snacks. So this is just a few egg yolks. I'll leave the exact recipe down below. I think it's 5 egg yolks, 5 cups of milk mixed together, some sugar, flour, salt in the pan. Mix that all together, stir it continuously until it gets like a thick pudding texture. You can add chocolate to make it chocolate flavored. You can add vanilla if you just want plain vanilla pudding. We're making chocolate pudding because we are going to make these like the classic dirt cups with the pudding and the brownie and the gummy worms on top. But we're making a more healthier alternative, of course. So instead of a brownie, I didn't have time to make brownies on this day or didn't really want to get into all that. I had some graham crackers, sourdough graham crackers I made the day before that were absolutely delicious. So my son is just crushing some of those up and we're going to sprinkle those in like little clumps of dirt. So we have our mud from our pudding, our dirt from our graham crackers, and our worms from our gelatin fruit gummy worms. This was just a really fun homeschool activity. We were doing it already today. I thought I would show you guys if you want just a fun little activity. I'll leave the recipes for all 3 of these down below. The pudding, the sourdough graham crackers that are long fermented, by the way, and the gummy worms that we really just make into gummies weekly, but this was a fun little way to change it up and make it into little worms, part of our homeschool activity for the day. Now we're getting into dinner. So this is actually lunchtime, but anytime we're going to be out of the house for the majority of the afternoon, my kids actually have some activities this evening. We do activities. We aren't at home all the time. So when we have any activities like that we're going to be out of the house for the majority of the evening, I always try to prepare dinner when I'm preparing lunch. So for lunch, I'm just heating up some leftover soup. But while I'm doing that, I'm working on dinner. So this is going to be really just a dinner I made up in my head. I make a lot of dinners up like that. I just kind of throw ingredients I have together into something that sounds good. It usually turns out pretty good. So if I can encourage you in any way learning to cook from scratch is learn not to always follow specific recipes. Yes, I love following recipes at times and getting inspiration for things, but once you kind of get the hang of putting ingredients together, things that you know your family likes paired well together, you can pretty much cook anything from scratch, come up with anything in your head on a whim and have an easy dinner. So all I'm doing here is starting out by roasting some sweet potatoes. I could have done regular potatoes. This is just the potato we had on hand at this time, and putting some lard on top. You could use any fat of choice, lard, butter, tallow, coconut oil, and letting those roast while I get some onions, garlic, and sausage prepared to go with this. And I'm also making a pumpkin creamy sauce. So this is another just something I pulled out of the freezer. I noticed that we had a lot of pumpkin frozen from last year, and we're about to get into garden season, so I need to be using up things in our freezer and in our canned goods storage so that I have room for the things coming up this coming summer. So I'm taking some frozen pumpkin, adding a liver pate pop. I've talked about my liver pate many times on this channel. It's basically just a frozen batch of liver and bone broth, cooked liver and bone broth that I throw into sauces and gravies and anything that I can disguise it into. Cook it down with that pumpkin, and that's just another easy way to get organ meat into our family's diet that they will never even notice. So I'm cooking that cream sauce in the midst of getting lunch together, and then I'm going to brown some sausage. So this is basically just going to be roasted sweet potatoes, sausage with onions and garlic, topped with this creamy pumpkin sauce with that liver pate hidden in there. So it's just I guess you would call this a casserole, because I'm going to put all this in a casserole dish, mix it together, put the sauce on top, cook it, and call it a dinner. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I've never made this before, but it turned out absolutely delicious. Our whole family loved it. We enjoyed it that night. It was so easy to make. I had everything cooked before we left for that evening, and I just left it in the oven covered, and then when we got home from our activities, I reheated it back in the oven, and we enjoyed a dinner within about 20 minutes of getting home. So super easy way to have an from scratch nourishing dinner when you are out of the house, because like I said, we could have easily picked up food or packed sandwiches, but this is just way more nourishing, and it didn't take but an extra 25-30 minutes of prep time while I was cooking our lunch anyway, to have dinner ready for us when we get home that night. So maybe I could give you some inspiration to just start throwing ingredients together. It may be a fail. I've had failures at this. I've had recipes that are failures when I do this. They're just like, what in the world did I put together? We still eat it, we still move on, but many times now that I've practiced this skill quite a bit, we come up with some really delicious dinners. My husband calls some of these dinners the best dinners I've ever made, because they're just random ingredients. There's no real recipe. There's no name of the dish. It's just good, wholesome, nutritious ingredients combined together to make a complete, nourishing meal for our family. So I hope you enjoyed spending this day with me and a little bit of homemaking, what I do to prepare for dinner when we're going to be away at night and get home very late. You see, it's very late when I'm actually getting this dinner prepped up. We have been out pretty late. I think it's like 8:30 at night when I'm actually putting this dinner together. So that's very, very late for us to eat when we're used to eating at about 6 or 6:30. But we have a nourishing meal to fuel our bodies from a busy day and ready for a good night's rest to start the next day.